Welcome back to The Agent of Wealth. This is your host, Marc Bautis. Today, I'm joined by a special guest, Stanley Bronstein. Stanley is an attorney, CPA, life coach, and multi-book author focused on helping people reach their maximum potential and achieve a permanent and sustainable health transformation. He's the creator of The Way of Excellence, a structured personal development system centered on living excellence as a way of life. He's also the founder of the Million Pound Weight Loss Challenge, a free global health movement with thousands of members worldwide. Stanley's personal story is remarkable. He lost more than 220 pounds, going from 367 pounds down to the 140s, and has maintained that transformation for nearly 17 years. Today we're going to talk about excellence versus perfection in both money and health, and how to avoid all or nothing cycles while building consistency that compounds over time. Stanley, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mark. It's good to be here.
All right, so you maintained a 220-pound weight loss for nearly 17 years, which is kind of contradictory to everything you hear about people losing weight and then they eventually gain it back and sometimes gain back more. How has excellence, not perfection, sustain that or help you sustain that?
Okay. First of all, when I started, I had to make a realization. And a lot of these things are things I figured out afterwards. Went back and analyzed the process I went through. The difference between excellence and perfection. When you're a perfectionist, the only thing that's good enough is perfection. There's just one problem with that. There are no perfect human beings. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. No one listening is perfect. There have never been any perfect human beings. You're not going to be the first. I'm not going to be the first. No one listening is going to be the first. You are going to make mistakes. I can guarantee it. Mistakes are proof that you're trying. Plain and simple. So you're going to make mistakes. So perfection is I guess you could say, foolish goal, an improper goal, not a good goal. I used to be a perfectionist. I was a 367-pound perfectionist. Kind of ironic and contradictory there a little bit. So I started realizing good enough is good enough. I became what I call a good enoughist. Not a perfectionist, a good enoughist.
Maybe even we could take a step back and define excellence versus perfection, especially like
that's what I was coming
to. Oh, okay.
Right
Sorry
now.
to cut you off there.
That's okay. No problem. Okay. Excellence is constant and never-ending improvement. I just told you good enough's good enough. Think of good enough as a floor. Think of perfectionism as a ceiling. Excellence is everything in between. And there are levels between that. See, the interesting thing about excellence is no matter how good you are, it's always possible to get better. There's always a level higher. There's always a level deeper. There's always a level farther. The difference is when you learn to settle for good enough and aim for perfection, you stop beating yourself over the head in the process. See, when you're a perfectionist and you don't get there, or the people around you don't get there, you beat yourself up. You beat them up. You don't feel right. You feel like a failure. You waste energy trying to become perfect. Whereas if you believe in excellence, you accept good enough is good enough, and then you, in an intelligent manner, create a system and focus on how can you constantly work on getting better and better and better. For example, I am now in year 18 of my transformational process. I started in February 1st, 2009. So I had my 17th rebirth day 17 days ago. That's what I call it. And I celebrate it every year. And my goal every year is to be better January 1st than I was the year before. And I've done that. I've done that for 17 years. Now I'm in year 18. And the way you do that is by following what I call beat yesterday. Your goal is to be better today than you were yesterday, better tomorrow than you were today. But since I already told you you're an imperfect human being and you're going to make failures, you need to realize that sometimes if you mess up, as long as you pick yourself back up and get started again and keep going, that is beating yesterday. Because see, with me, the old me, when I started 17 years ago, that was not the first time I lost weight. It was the first time I got started and didn't stop. Before, anytime I would mess up, I'd say, okay, messed up, I quit. And then I'd go back to my old habits. This time, when I messed up, I said, well, I can learn something from that. I made a mistake. That means I'm trying. When I learn from that mistake, learn from it, get started again, keep moving, keep going, keep going, keep going. Persistence. That, I don't care if you're talking about financial goals. I don't care if you're talking about personal goals, family goals, relationship goals, health goals, whatever. Persistence. Get started and keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. I'm sure you've probably talked about that before with some of your guests in a financial context.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You mentioned, your goal should be to beat yesterday. Everything you hear on goals is, you should set SMART goals, specific, measurable. Is there a way to measure what beat yesterday means? Or are you kind of looking at, here's what you need to do. And as long as you're marching towards that path, you're on the right track?
Yeah. As long as you're marching toward that path, you're on the right track. As long as you're on the track. See, yes, I agree with SMART goals. I agree with that. But the problem becomes goals can sometimes be rigid. And one of the problems I have seen is that we don't cut ourselves enough slack. If you set a goal and you don't make it, you feel like a failure. You messed up. You screwed up. You're no good. Beat yesterday is a small part of the SMART goal. It's the day to day. The SMART goal might be a 6-month goal, a 1-year goal, a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal, a 20-year goal, a lifetime goal, whatever. Beat yesterday is the daily part of it. Beat yesterday is what keeps you on track. And if you follow a beat yesterday philosophy, you give yourself a little grace. You cut yourself a little slack. Because one of the problems is we can be very hard on ourselves. And we can be very hard on the people around us. And they can be very hard on us. And I believe this world would be a much better place if we were a little nicer to each other and a little nicer to ourselves. That, and I have found that has worked for me. Because the beat yesterday philosophy is, okay, this is where I want to go. I want to lose weight. Or I'll be more specific. I walked X amount of miles last year. I want to walk more this year. That's a SMART goal. Specific, measurable, actionable, whatever. SMART goal. The beat yesterday is how do I do it? Kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then I think what people struggle with is when they do have call it a bad day or they come off the track. How do you that mindset?
Been there, done that.
How do you have that mindset to get back on the track or not let this derail you into going back to old habits? Because I think that's what people struggle with a lot.
Okay. Realize that you are more powerful than you ever imagined. You are capable of more than you ever imagined. See, that's what I learned out of this whole process. It taught me that I am more powerful than I ever imagined. Look, I'm an attorney and I'm a CPA. I'm 66 years old. I've had a very successful business career. I could retire today if I wanted to. You know, I'm in a great place. I have no debt, made money. I'm fine. But I don't want to because I have stuff to do. And, you know, the experience has taught me that not only am I more powerful than I ever imagined, what should I do with that power? That's what it's asked me. You know, should I get in shape? Should I help the people around me? Should I help my family members? What about my relationships? Should I help my community? Should I help that homeless person down the street? Whatever. It all starts with realizing that you're a human being and you're gonna screw up. You're gonna. You know, it's like anything in life. If you prepare, you're more likely to be able to handle it. So if you start with the fact, and I mean fact, that you are an imperfect human being and you're gonna screw up, and you add in the fact that you are more powerful than you ever imagined, if you put those two together and then you add in the commitment, the 100% commitment that every time I fail, I'm going to start again, then you've got it. That's all it takes. You know, it's real simple. Know that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. You are not a failure. You are a human being. Human beings are imperfect creatures. It's the way it is. And it's all about cutting ourselves slack. See, and part of the problem too is, Mark, we're all told that all this stuff is hard. And that sets us up for failure right there. It's much easier than you think. It helps when you have a system. See, when I went through this, I've always been a systems thinker. I've been paid my whole career to take complicated things and make them as simple as possible. So I said, what did I do here? What can I learn from it? How can I put this into a system to help other people? Because see, that's what I realized. I realized that I went through what I went through, and the purpose for that was so that I could then help others. That has become my mission. So I put this into a system. Think of it, I call it a human operating system. Think of it as Windows 11, Mac OS, Android, Linux, for what it is to be an excellent human being. It gives you guidance. It gives you steps. But it all starts with you're more powerful than you ever imagined. You're going to screw up. So if you know ahead of time what you're going to do, if you make a commitment ahead of time that when you screw up, you're going to start again, you're on your way. They're not going to be able to stop you.
How did someone go from that goal to establishing a system to get them to obviously hit to that goal? And then in the context of kind of what do they need to do at the lowest level, at the daily level, so that this daily change can compound over time and lead to a transformation over a longer period of time?
I'm going to give you 4 things in just a minute. But first thing you do is, you want to get started, you go to my website, thewayofexcellence.com. Thewayofexcellence.com. It is full of free resources. Everything on there is free. It's not that I don't like money. It's not that I don't want people to hire me to work with them privately. It is that my mission is more important than the money. And I am at a stage in my life where I can, and also I realize not everyone has money. So I put that all there for free. So go there. There are, on the main page, it will take you to videos. There are 20 parts in the system. Each video is 8 to 12 minutes. Watch one video a day. Within less than a month, you'll have gone through the whole system. You will have your structure. And the system has been set up. My story is weight loss. Yours may be something totally different. That's why I put it into a system that you can tailor to your specific needs. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing I recommend, and this is coming from a place of, I think all of us would like to be healthier. And if we're not already healthy, we'd like to be healthy. And if we're healthy, we'd like to be as healthy as we can be. I'm starting from a place where I think we all would like to live as long as we can, as long as we are healthy while we're doing that. We would like to be prosperous while we're doing that, and we would like to enjoy ourselves and be happy. That's the premise I'm starting from. With all that said and done, here's the 4 things I recommend for people. One is eat less processed food. Less. I'm not telling you none. Things like Kentucky Fried Chicken, hot dogs, frozen dinners, pizzas, things like that. Less of it. Me at this stage, I eat none of it. But remember, I'm in year 18 of my process. When I started out, I ate it. It was an evolutionary process. So the point is to get started and keep going and see where you evolve, what you evolve into. But less processed food. That's number 1. That's key, because diet, nutrition is extremely important. It is the fuel you are putting into your body, and that is your engine. And diet is not just the food you put in your mouth. It's the thoughts you put in your head. It's the people you surround yourself with. It's the environment you create around yourself. It's all those things. So those are all very important. It's all your inputs. That's your diet. Second thing, quit eating 4 or 5 hours before you go to bed. That's a tall one for some people, but I'm going to tell you why I recommend that. If you quit eating 4 or 5 hours before you go to bed, like for example, if you go to bed at 11, quit eating at 6, eat your dinner and then quit. Don't eat snacks. Because when you eat snacks, you're taking your food to bed with you, and your body has to use its energy during the night to process that food. If instead you go 4 to 5 hours without eating that food, and then you go sleep for 6, 7, 8 hours, you're giving your body 12, 13, 14 hours to process everything from the day before, to clear everything out, to cleanse your cells, to rebuild your body, to strengthen you, to heal you. That is a process. I've been doing that. That helps immensely. Now, walk at least 20 minutes a day. The American College of Sports Medicine recommends 150 minutes of aerobic activity a week. If you do 20 minutes a day, 7 days a week, that's 140. That's close enough. And if you can't walk 20, do 10. When I started out, I had trouble walking 2 blocks. Seriously. Now I walk miles and miles and miles every day. And I've been doing it for years. But just get started. Do what you can. Remember, the goal's not perfect. The goal is good enough. If you only walk 10 minutes today, but you usually walk 0, you just beat yesterday. Pat yourself on the back. Be happy. Do that. And then the last thing is set aside 15 minutes a day for yourself. If you've got kids, if you're taking care of elderly family members, if you got a sick spouse, whatever it is you're doing, I would wager that you can find 15 minutes a day to be by yourself, for yourself. And use that time. There's many ways you can use it. If you like to pray, use it to pray. If you know how to meditate, use it to meditate. If you want to learn how to meditate, learn how to meditate. If you want, go to my website and watch one of those videos I told you. They're 8 to 12 minutes. Watch one. That's a great way to spend that 15 minutes because it will get you thinking. And it will get you thinking in a positive manner. Zig Ziglar used to talk about stinking thinking. Well, this is not stinking thinking. This is positive thinking. That's so important. If you do those things, eat less processed food, quit eating 4 or 5 hours before you go to sleep, walk at least 20 minutes a day, and set aside 15 minutes a day for yourself over the course of a year, you will be amazed at how far you come. You will be absolutely amazed. That's what I recommend for people. People look at what I do now and they go, Stanley, I can't do that. Well, I got news for you. If you asked me 17 years ago to do what I do now, I would have said the same thing. I can't do that. Well, guess what? Today I can. And the funny thing is, I haven't found my limits yet. One of the reasons I do what I do is because I'm searching for my limits. That's how powerful I realize I am. But that's how powerful you are. It's all about learning to believe. And the problem is we get raised in environments, we might have had parents that, taught us limited thinking. We might have engaged in a lot of negative self-talk. I can't. Well, here, start using the word can. Stop using the word can't. If you can't do something, say, I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm going to learn. Start focusing on the positive. Stop focusing on the negative. Start focusing on the good. Stop focusing on the bad. Engage in positive self-talk. Stop with the negative self-talk. It is a constant process. It's just like when you put money in a bank account or in an investment account, do you become a millionaire instantly?
Usually not.
No. But if you put money in that account every month, every paycheck, if you put some money in that account every paycheck, and it gets invested wisely, and you have a teeny bit of luck, and you're putting money in for 20 years, do you all of a sudden wake up one day and you're a millionaire?
Can definitely happen, yeah.
Same concept. The only difference is we're not talking about dollar capital, we're talking about human capital. Human capital is a concept I had never heard of it before until I was when I was getting my undergraduate degree at the University of Texas. There was a teacher, a guest speaker, he came into our economics class, and he talked about the concept of human capital. I'd never heard that before. Think of humanity as a resource to be spent, to be used. Your time, energy, and resources are just that, resources to be used and spent. The question is, do you use them and spend them wisely? Do you spend hours and hours and hours doom scrolling on your smartphone, watching funny videos and everything? Or do you do like I do? I spend 5 minutes a day doing that. Or example, when I got on this podcast a few minutes early and I was waiting for you to show up. I pulled out my phone and I sat there and I spent 2 or 3 minutes and I watched a couple of funny videos. And then I put my phone down and I'm done with it. Now you and I were talking, it's business. This is important. This is what to do. I'm not saying never have fun. I'm not saying don't do silly things. I'm not saying don't ever waste your time. I'm saying just don't do it all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I see a lot on the finance side where the hardest thing for people that want to, let's say, improve their finances is getting started. I'm sure it happens on the health side. I'm sure it happens in anything. If someone listening feels stuck in that, I can't get started, or I'm in that all or nothing cycle right now, what's the first mindset shift or thing they can do to get started?
Okay, change their words. You just said, I can't get started. How about, I haven't been able to get started in the past? Mindset shift. Right there. I haven't been able to get started in the past. That's turning a negative statement into a positive statement. Haven't been able to get started in the past. So I'm going to start now. I'm going to try again. I'm going to start now and I'm going to keep going. And next one is, jump off the cliff. When you jump off the cliff, guess what? The baby bird, gets thrown out of the nest. Guess what? The baby bird figures out how to fly. You just do it. I'm not a big fan of Nike, but that's one place where they got it right. Just do it. It's not that I have anything against Nike. I wear different footwear. But that's it. Just realize that the past, okay, what do they say in financial advising? The past is not necessarily indicative of the future. And that's usually said in a cover my ass concept. The investment manager wants to cover their ass. And they go, here, look at all this great stuff I've done in the past. I've made $1 zillion. The past is not indicative of the future, or something like that, however they word it. Well, flip that around. I've screwed up in the past. I've made mistakes in the past. I've failed in the past. Well, the past is not necessarily indicative of the future. The past should not be where you live. The past should be what you learn from. Live in the present. Look, I didn't start losing weight until I turned 50 years. I didn't start permanently losing weight until I turned 50 years old. I was turning 50. And for me, I had a wake-up call. The wake-up call was, 4 months before my 50th birthday, I said, where am I going to be in 5 years if I keep going the way I'm going? Care to guess what the answer was?
Not good. Not in a good place.
Dead. And guess what? I didn't want to be dead. But I was not at rock bottom. I had not had a heart attack yet. I had not had a stroke yet. My knees had not given out yet. But I'd be willing to bet all those things were coming. And fortunately, I woke up and I changed my life in an instant. What I do now is I help people learn to change their life in an instant without waiting 49 and a half years to get there. But do I regret any of the mistakes I've made? Well, if I could change things I did in the past, I would change them, no doubt about it. But those mistakes, my past, was necessary to teach me what I know today, to turn me into the person I am today. And I happen to think the person I am today is kick-ass. I like the person I am today. The person I am today is in a position to help people, hundreds of people, thousands of people, hopefully millions of people. That is my goal. That is what I want to do. I believe in dreaming big. And that's the way I roll. So just do the same thing. Your past is what you learn from. My past was my teacher. But I don't live there anymore. Because if I lived there, I would not be able to enjoy the wonderful, incredible life I've created for myself today. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. And I think that sums it all up. This has been a powerful conversation on the difference between chasing perfection and committing to excellence. I know you mentioned your website earlier. Can you mention it again? It was where people can go to find out more about you.
TheWayOfExcellence.com. TheWayOfExcellence.com. Please put that in the show notes. And when you go there, I would watch the videos. Watch one a day over the next, in less than a month, you'll have finished the whole system. You'll understand the system. Then start reading the books. There are 9 books on there. One of them, let's talk about compounding. The way of constant and never-ending improvement. Can I? C-A-N-I. Can I? And the answer is yes, you can. That's a good one to start with. And learn about the power of compounding and realize life is a long-term game. And the problem is we live in a short-term world. Uber, Amazon Prime, streaming video, everything else. We live in a short-term world. But life is a long-term game.
Great.
Get started.
We'll include that website and information in the resources section of the show notes. Thanks again, Stanley, and thank you to everyone who tuned in today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.